After using Dove for 7 days, I actually felt the difference in my skin all over.
Dove is made from 1/4 moisturizing cream. It won't dry your skin like soap can.
Jasmine, she's quite honest about what she likes and what she doesn't like. And she likes my skin, which is great.
Now you can get all the goodness of Dove in Dove Cream Shower, so try Dove for yourself. On fireworks night, you're going to hand your child something 15 times hotter than boiling water. Something 8 times hotter than cooking oil. Something 5 times hotter than a barbecue. Handle sparklers with kid gloves.
Why are all these stars together in one huge show? Here's a clue.
Happy birthday, Prince Charles! Happy birthday.
Your royal gorgeousness.
A royal celebration, a gala. Are you mad? Join the party next Saturday, 7:45 ITV.
And a royal celebration now on Central ITV. Charles at 50.
One prince, 2 palaces, the future of the monarchy. Talk of abdication, an unprecedented denial.
Furious Charles denies TV abdication claim.
48 tumultuous hours, the remarkable prelude to a program that looks at Charles at 50.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Prince Charles is 50 this Saturday. For the last few months we have followed him around Britain as he attempts to win back the support of the British public. The charm offensive is working.
The reason that Prince Charles is so much more popular now, I'm going to be blunt, brutal and shocking, is because of the death of Diana.
Charles seems to have made a fresh start, but the problem of Camilla still remains. He's made it clear the relationship is here to stay and that he cannot live without her.
They are 2 people that when you're with them in private make you think this is a nice place to be.
Charles realizes how close the monarchy came to disaster after the death of Diana. For several months, his team have been working on plans to modernize the monarchy. Tonight, we reveal the radical blueprint to ensure the survival of the House of Windsor.
He does not want to go down as King Charles the Last. He wants to go down in history as a king who actually secured a niche for the monarchy into a new millennium, a new century.
July this year, and the prince is visiting Kent on one of his busy away days. The crowds are out to meet him, and the media too. He's riding high in the polls, and it's years since he's been this much in the spotlight.
It's Prince Welsh, yeah, and he's like, you know, visit places, yeah. He comes to visit people and people in need, yeah. For our country.
But behind the smiles, the worries still remain. The prince is said to be depressed as he approaches his 50th birthday. He did not want any celebrations to mark his special day, but he ended up having to attend a number of different parties, and each of them has been fraught with problems.
Obviously, he's going to drown in birthday parties. There's a Prince's Trust party. There was the party back in July that his sons gave him. The Queen is giving a ball, which is not so much his friends as public people in his life. And then at the weekend, there's also Camilla giving him a ball at Highgrove. And in a way, this is symbolic of the way that there's all these strands of Charles's life he's been unable to knit together. He has to have separate parties, some of which some people attend, some of which some people don't, for his public work, for his sons, for his family and mother, and for his mistress.
Lift it then. Start. Let it stop.
So far, the Queen has refused to attend the Highgrove party. much to the prince's disappointment.
The Queen cannot be seen yet to be giving the royal seal of approval to the prince's relationship with Camilla, because it has an effect on the monarchy and the standing of the monarchy and indeed on the future of the monarchy.
As long as the Queen disapproves of that relationship, then for him to come out in public with Camilla Parker Bowles flies absolutely in the face of his mother.
The Queen has had no contact with Camilla Parker Bowles for a very long time. She's worried that Charles's relationship with Camilla may cost him the throne and even undermine the monarchy itself.
There have always been fears that somehow Charles would never become king. Charles would mess up somehow. It's almost a superstitious thing around the palace. And I think as he dithers over the Camilla question, which is a very difficult one for him, some senior royals and the people around them do see him possibly going the way of the Duke of Windsor.
King Edward and Mrs. Simpson have been pictured together on many occasions. And in this topsy-turvy world, it may be time for an American woman to marry a British king. Only one man knows the answer, and as yet, he is keeping it a royal secret.
I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility without the help and support of the woman I love.
Once you'd had the abdication crisis, the monarchy just turned its back on divorce. You know, a divorced woman couldn't be presented at court, a divorced woman couldn't even enter the royal enclosure at Ascot. And divorce represented the kind of degradation or desecration. It was like, you know, doing something rude in church. And the monarchy just stands, absolutely, it is seen, and perhaps correctly, as the last ditch defending British society against the ease of divorce.
In the uniform of Field Marshal, the Duke comes to...
When he was 50, the last Prince of Wales was living in exile. The man who was briefly king was reduced to being governor of the Bahamas. His fall from grace because he put love before duty and married the divorced Wallis Simpson.
I very much doubt that the British government has it in mind at the present that my official activities should extend beyond the confines of the Bahama Islands.
Camilla and Charles first met in 1971. Their relationship was cut short when Charles was posted overseas on naval duties. During his absence, Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles, but the relationship soon resumed and only stopped when Charles and Diana became engaged. But within 5 years they became lovers again and have remained together until today. Those who believed in the fairy tale marriage of Charles and Diana now feel betrayed.
When I heard about the breakdown of the marriage, I was genuinely shocked that all the things we've been hearing about and reading about were in fact largely true. And this was because I thought that everybody had understood, you know, we'd understood and he'd understood, that being faithful to your wife was not only something that everybody tried to do, but you particularly tried to do, or had to do, or needed to do, but you liked it or not, when you were the Prince of Wales.
It is absolutely a relationship made in heaven. I mean, they are, even now, at this stage, Charles, of course, 50 next week, and Camilla 51, they are still as in love with each other as they were 20 years ago. They are soppy with each other, sickeningly so, according to closest friends, and they talk, when they can't be together, probably 6 or 7 times a day. And of course, he has said again through his friends that she is non-negotiable. In other words, that she will always be part of his life.
They give each other support. There is a lot of laughter. There's a lot of genial, happy conversation and a lot of intelligent observation about the world around them. They are two people that when you're with them in private make you think this is a nice place to be.
But in public, Charles and Camilla cannot be so relaxed. For months, the couple debated whether to attend the recent wedding of their close friend, Santa Palmer Tompkinson. Finally, they decided to arrive and leave the ceremony separately. They still feared a hostile reception from the public.
they've gone to enormous lengths to keep their relationship very, very secret. They've got a network, if you like, of safe houses where they've gone up in the Brecon Beacons, down in Dorset with the Palmer Tompkinsons, up in Norfolk with the Vatten Cutsums, and obviously Highgrove when the Princess wasn't spending much time there. Camilla could creep in through the back door and spend the weekend there, be a host to a dinner party, etc. Charles has even been known to be smuggled in the boot of a cart to the house that she previously lived in Corsham.
People refer to Charles and Camilla's friends as the Highgrove set, and there's a group of the same people that turn up time after time. All these people have been turning out to assist Camilla when she needed support, when she was in the spotlight, when they're hitting the headlines once again. They've all been very loyal, and you'll notice that none of them have talked about her. So that's why Camilla remains a bit of an enigma, really.
She is very much protected by the Prince of Wales and his senior aides, his policemen, all those sorts of people. So it's made her not semi-royal, that's too high a remark really, but she is now protected and looked after.
But while Camilla is protected by the prince's staff, observers say Buckingham Palace disapproves of the relationship, claiming it's one in a long line of bad judgments by the Prince of Wales.
I have a strong sense that she and Prince Philip believe that Charles is a bit of an unsafe pair of hands to leave the monarchy in. They've been concerned about that over the years. He was very dallying, very tardy in getting married and finding a wife, and then when he did choose a wife, it was the wrong wife, and, you know, they let him make his own decisions. And when it hasn't, well, they know how indecisive he is. They are very decisive people, especially Prince Philip, who was the real head of the family. And so perhaps they've been a bit disappointed in their son, because they obviously prefer Anne. They've always seemed to think that Anne was the son they should have had.
The Queen and Charles have never enjoyed a close relationship.
Here's wishing a very important young gentleman many happy returns of the day on his 3rd birthday. It's unfortunate that Mother and Father are not here to share it with him, but what a party they'll have when they do get back.
They weren't together when they were young, as much as you might expect. They are different characters, and when you are both doing your duties in different parts of the country and not meeting up a great deal, and if you aren't the natural soulmates, can mean that the relationship is more formal than it is in some family relationships.
Communication between the Queen and Charles is strained. They do not work naturally as a royal team, the monarch and the heir. Earlier this year, Charles flew to Oman in the wake of the bombings. It was a demanding and arduous visit. Charles comforted the bereaved and spoke movingly of the loss of his uncle in similar circumstances.
Of course, I remember only too well feeling deeply angered when my great-uncle Lord Mountbatten and other relations of mine were blown into small pieces 19 years ago. I remember so well feeling that, and so I can understand a little bit about some of the feelings, only a little bit perhaps, of those who lost their loved ones on this occasion.
The prince felt he had performed his royal duties well under difficult circumstances. But a senior aide has told us that the prince was disappointed when the Queen did not congratulate or thank him for his work. In 1993, the prince set up his own press office in St. James's Palace, intended to work independently of, but in liaison with the Queen's team at Buckingham Palace. In truth, they are rivals.
There is now an out-and-out war between the two palaces, and it's quite clear that St. James's Palace is totally concerned with the Prince of Wales, his future, smooth path to take over the throne, and obviously Buckingham Palace is totally concerned with the Queen. They won't be deflected from their mission to keep the Queen in the public profile and to make sure that they keep her dignity.
The rivalry manifests itself in the subtle leaks which go on from Buckingham Palace and from St. James's Palace, and leaking, of course, to to the media.
The most recent example of this came with a serialization of a new biography of Charles by author Penny Junor. The book, based on briefings with Charles's advisors and friends, painted a bleak picture of the relationship between the Prince of Wales and the Queen. Buckingham Palace denied many of the book's claims. But out on the road, life appears happier. First stop on the Kent away day, a kickabout with an Asian football team in front of the assembled cameras. Charles's press team carefully stage-manage events to maximize coverage on the TV news and in the newspapers the next day. Here, press officer Jane Neal directs the media towards the best photo opportunity.
Tim?
Charles's team have also been working on the rebranding of Camilla, widely regarded by the public as responsible for breaking up the marriage of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The confirmation of their affair came in 1993, when an intimate telephone conversation between Charles and Camilla was made public. Camilla became a hate figure, animosity fueled by coverage in the press. It was Di versus Camilla.
If you want to see a King Charles and a Queen Camilla as the future head of our monarchy, hold up a blue card. If you don't, then please hold up a red card. And that looks like a sea of red. A pretty clear message to the Prince of Wales.
She was the Wicked Witch of the North. And in many ways it was perfect casting. I mean, Diana was the doe-eyed princess, and she never really stood a chance. Once she'd been given that image, the public accepted it so easily.
The language that was used about Camilla Parker Bowles was so cruel that I think any individual reading those words used about them would feel horrified. And the courage of Camilla Parker Bowles in riding that out and in not saying anything herself in her own defence, I think was quite extraordinary.
Even before the Princess of Wales's death last August, the rebranding and the kind of rehabilitation, if you like, of Camilla Parker Bowles started in earnest, and Prince Charles's closest aides were very closely involved in that. And she obviously became involved in a charity, the National Osteoporosis Society. Now, the cynic is going to say this is just a vehicle for her publicity, to get her more sympathy, etc., but from the public, and it's not. It's something that's very, very close to her heart. Her mother died of osteoporosis, and her grandmother died of osteoporosis.
We asked Camilla if she would do some publicity for us to launch our 10th anniversary appeal 2 years ago, and she very reluctantly agreed. She allowed us to take her photograph with 9 other famous faces, and that photograph was quite widely used. I then asked her if she would like to formalise her relationship with us a bit more and become a patron, and she was very candid, and she has a good sense of humour, and she immediately said to me, "Are you sure this will help?" And I said yes, because people want to read about you. If while they're reading about you, they also learn about osteoporosis, that will be marvellous.
Camilla was gently eased into the limelight. In July '97, Charles hosted a birthday party for her at Highgrove. This was the perfect opportunity to give the photographers the photo they'd been waiting for, Camilla arriving at Charles's home. Her car slowed down for the press as she swept through the gates. We have learned that after the public display of togetherness, a senior courtier at Buckingham Palace said the relationship between Charles and Camilla had to end, that it was morally questionable and undermined the dignity of the monarchy. But Charles ignored this, and the relationship continued. During the summer of '97, the couple were becoming increasingly confident. Camilla was to make her first major public engagement at a charity ball. Other functions were planned for later in the year.
2 weeks before that event was to take place, we heard the terrible tragedy of Princess Diana's death in a car crash in Paris. And now that news came through on the Sunday morning. I immediately phoned Mrs. Parker Bowles, and she was very much of one mind with me that we should cancel. Not postpone, but cancel as a mark of respect.
Diana's death plunged the House of Windsor into crisis and was to set the scene for a direct confrontation between Charles and the Queen.
The new Peugeot 206.
Kellogg's Optima Fruit and Fibre now combines the finest ingredients with OptiB, a brilliant blend of all 8 B vitamins. Kellogg's Optima. OptiB, your best in the morning.
It's more than just a food.
It's a step forward for pedigree nutrition. Now the Pedigree Chum Complete range has a new blend of protected vitamins and beneficial oils, which helps build strong natural defences.
They recognise the sound already. For a dog to be right on the outside, you need to build her up on the inside.
New Pedigree Chum Complete. Top breeder Carolyn Ward and Solitaire recommend it.
Dad, looks like they're going to put a bypass through our garden. Dad, Jim next door's won the lottery. Wants to share it with his neighbours. Dad, did you know that PG tips are really cheap?
Cheap? PG's not cheap. Oh, they just cost less than other leading brands. Cheap indeed. So why is Jim making a bypass?
French police say Diana, Princess of Wales, has been seriously injured.
Top story. Diana, Princess of Wales, is in hospital. Shocked police officials are now. It's a very bad scene.
At 1 o'clock, the phone rang, and Charles was told that there were rumours that Diana had been involved in a car accident. The reports were unclear, but some said that Diana's lover, Dodi Fayed, had been killed, and that Diana had suffered a broken collarbone.
It was all very confusing as to the extent of the injuries, and it must have been about 3:30 or so when the Prince's Deputy Private Secretary, Mark Boland, phoned me in tears and told me that the Princess of Wales was dead.
We have reports from Paris that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident. Dodi Fayed has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
The nation had lost its most loved royal. Charles quickly realised that the House of Windsor would be judged by how it reacted. Before the end of the night, a major argument had erupted between the Prince and the Queen. He wanted to fly to Paris on the royal jet to collect Diana's body and bring her home. The Queen felt this was inappropriate.
The Queen felt, and some may say this is a callous judgment, but one's got to understand the background of the Queen and the kind of formality of protocol, etc., is that she felt that the Princess of Wales was no longer royal and undeserving of that treatment, and was reluctant to sanction, as she has to sanction, the use of the royal jet.
As people began to flock to the palaces to leave their floral tributes, and churchgoers prayed for Diana, Prince William and Prince Harry sat through a church service which we have discovered not only failed to mention their mother, but in which the visiting minister told Billy Connolly jokes. Like Charles's team, the new government realized the huge impact the death of Diana would have.
They regarded her
Tony
as one of
Blair
the people.
caught the public mood immediately.
She was the people's princess. And that's how she will stay, how she will remain.
They were in trouble from the very morning that Diana's death was announced, and people were waking up to the news and being surprised at how shocked they were by it and how upset they were. Tony Blair, as we know, handled it very skillfully, came out and spoke emotionally of the people's princess, who the British people had stuck by.
Charles followed his own instincts, not his mother's, and flew to Paris to collect Diana's body. We have been told that the Queen finally agreed that Diana could return to England in a royal plane only after a heated discussion with a senior advisor. During the conversation, the advisor is said to have warned that if the Queen didn't give her permission for the royal flight, Diana's body could well return to England in a green Harrods van.
But that really sowed the seeds for a week of very strong disagreement, some very, very bitter infighting, and some character forming on both sides of the royal family.
On the flight back to England, we've been told that Charles's team arranged flowers and a royal standard for Diana's coffin. She was to return home a royal. Charles insisted that Diana was taken to lay in rest at St. James's Palace, against the Queen's wishes. Sources close to the prince have revealed to us that when Charles flew back to Balmoral, he was dismayed to discover that a picnic and shoot were planned for the next day, and that life appeared to be going on as normal. His concern was not only for his sons, he also realized that the media could portray the Windsors as uncaring. Again, it was Charles who took the initiative. Downing Street's popular touch proved useful as preparations for the funeral began. Charles was keen to cultivate this relationship. An alliance was formed, critical in the battles ahead between his camp and Buckingham Palace.
I think they treated her terrible, absolutely shocking. I don't think they're the most cold people on this earth.
Prior to the death of Diana, Charles's team had developed a good relationship with Sun editor Stuart Higgins, which enabled him to play a key role in putting across the St. James's Palace line that week.
It was very clear early on in the week from St. James's Palace, in my personal dealings with St. James's Palace, that they were hitting their heads against a brick wall, if you like, with the Queen and the Prince Philip. The excuse given all the time was that they were there privately grieving. Clearly there was a growing hysteria and a growing disappointment and anger, really, within the public that the Queen was not in London to express some kind of sympathy over the events of the weekend.
Certainly there was as much anti-Windsor feeling as there was pro-Diana feeling in that crowd. None of them had forgotten, as people have now, a year and a bit later, that this was the woman the Windsors had a year to the week before, expelled from the family, deleted from the prayers said in church, stripped her of her HRH, etc., very brutally, more brutally than necessary. And there was a lot of anti-Windsor rage.
St. James's Palace at this stage made it very clear that they were putting more and more pressure on the Queen, not least of all through the Prince himself. And to that end, we ran a very, very strongly worded editorial on the Wednesday morning, which said, "Show us there's a heart in the House of Windsor."
On the Thursday, the Queen and Prince Philip appeared with Charles and the boys to look at the flowers. It was the first time the Queen had been seen in public since Sunday. Charles was seen to hold Harry's hand.
It was said to me directly that the Prince had spoken to his mother in a way that he'd never spoken to her before. In other words, that he'd taken the initiative and told the Queen that she had to do something.
The Queen appeared to respond to the pressure when she finally returned to London on Friday. She walked amongst the crowds before making her broadcast to the nation.
What I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart.
She sounded very sincere, and she looked as though she was very moved.
I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others. and especially for her devotion to her two boys.
I thought she said everything she should have said.
The Queen's broadcast diffused public hostility. A senior aide tells us that it was written by a member of Charles's staff, and that the key phrases such as your Queen and as a grandmother had been added by Tony Blair's press secretary, Alistair Campbell. St James's Palace, and not Buckingham Palace, was now in control. But the problem of the flagpole still remained.
Now, I know it's tradition that the flag flies at Buckingham Palace when only the royalty are there, but I really would have liked to see the flag flying half-mast there as well.
The popular perception is that the Prince of Wales was on the verge of scaling Buckingham Palace to put up a flag which he could then lower to half-mast himself. He was very angry, make no mistake about it. He felt that traditional palace courtiers were totally entrenched. It was hidebound with protocol.
After a week of arguments, the Queen finally agreed that the flag could be flown at half-mast. Another concession.
If they hadn't responded and the Queen hadn't made that emergency broadcast on the night before the funeral, I do think the Queen would have been booed on the Saturday. I think Charles might have had rotten tomatoes thrown at him if he'd ventured 10 yards away from his children, who were his kind of protective screen. But it could have been potential curtains.
Within days of the funeral, the rows between St James's and Buckingham Palace became public.
My informant, a senior official close to court circles, states that Charles had a blazing row with Sir Robin Fellows, in which Sir Robin was told to, quote, impale himself on his own flagstaff.
We've been told that the row was actually between Sir Robert Fellows, the Queen's private secretary, and Mark Boland, the Prince's deputy private secretary. Buckingham Palace denied there was any truth in the story, as did St James's. Next stop on Charles's away day to Kent is a brewery celebrating its 300th anniversary. This morning, the Prince was on the front page of The Sun, having donated a watercolour to raise money for charity. He's courting the tabloids, who once ignored him. In the last year, we've seen the rebranding of Charles.
So what are we looking for here?
Clarity, an aroma, a malty flavour.
It hasn't got any head on it, but it's gone, long as it. No,
The absence of Diana means that the focus is now back on him. Thanks to a good PR team, he seems to have regained his popular touch. Charles and the Royal Rat Pack have made amends.
I know you're longing to get to it.
It's certainly a very cleverly orchestrated campaign to rebuild Charles's reputation.
They think things out now, and they think what's a good photo opportunity, where the Prince can maybe add a few words which will give the reporters some good copy. They're very, very positive now, and I think it's not before time either.
And the press offensive is working. The next day, he's back on the front page. In November '97, 2 months after the death of the Princess, Charles, accompanied by Prince Harry, went to South Africa and met Nelson Mandela and the Spice Girls.
You're not old. You're as young as the girl you feel, and I'm 25.
This trip marked a significant change in Charles's relationship with the media.
For 10 years he didn't speak to us. And then we got on a plane with him and went to South Africa last year. And suddenly, the curtain between the front of the plane and the back of the plane opened, and the Prince was standing there. I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it. And he started chatting away as if there'd been no 10-year gap at all. But it was sad to see some of the things, the hoops they put him through for the sake of press, you know. He had to get smothered in kisses by the Spice Girls. I said, I really feel sorry for you. And he said, oh, God. And he said, oh, I've got to meet him again in London when I go back.
I don't think that it's ever easy if you're a public figure, and I found this myself, to be put in situations which are totally outside your experience or, frankly, your interest. But I think he carries it off extremely well, as one always has to do. But I I don't imagine that in the bar was necessarily listening to the Spice Girls on the TV play.
By last Christmas, Charles was as popular in the polls as the new Prime Minister, Tony Blair. But while he was riding high, Camilla was still having to take a low profile. A few months after the death of Diana, Camilla attempted to take a quiet holiday in Chile to escape the pressures.
Camilla, how do you feel in Chile? What is your opinion about Diana's deed?
It must have been very upsetting for her plans to be suddenly brought to a halt like this. It seemed as if Diana was winning once again. You know, even from the grave, Diana was still calling the shots and destroying Camilla's plans for happiness. All the old hatred and resentment of Camilla came flooding back right through the nation.
Camilla, do you think Prince Charles will be King of England?
To make matters worse, the local press had been tipped off and greeted her with even more aggression and disrespect than anything she might have faced at home. Charles, meanwhile, was combining fatherhood with duty in a totally new way for him. He found he was bathing in the reflected glory of his sons.
Two things have happened really over the last year to improve Charles's popularity to a surprising degree. One is that the wave of public sympathy inevitably directed at his sons after their mother's death has washed over him to a degree that has surprised a lot of people. He has also surprised a lot of people by putting his sons before duty. Since Diana's death, that's been the way Charles has handled it. As we've seen, he's taken them on trips abroad with him. He's not merely done this, but he's, through his spin doctors, been seen to be doing this in a very, like those mugs with world's best dad on them, sort of way.
The reason that Prince Charles is so much more popular now, I'm going to be blunt, brutal, and shocking, is because of the death of Diana. That is a simple, straightforward explanation. Whilst the princess was alive, everything that he did was cast into the shadow. She was brilliant, she was a star. He was dull, boring, and bad. One was all light, the other was all dark. And it wasn't only public perception. She went out of her way, as we saw in the Panorama interview, to denigrate him, to overshadow him. What has happened following Diana's death is simply that he appears without that perpetual shadow.
After Diana's death, it was difficult for Charles and Camilla to meet. Their relationship was mainly conducted over the phone. But things began to get easier. The death of Diana gave the press and the photographers a newfound respect for privacy.
That's one of the great ironies, is that since Diana's death, Charles and Camilla have enjoyed greater freedom. Photographers do not now routinely hang around her house in Wiltshire. They're not outside St James's Palace or at Highgrove. Occasionally they are, because it is still a talking point when they're together. But by and large, I think because of the mood of the nation towards matters of privacy, the press has responded to that and has allowed them more freedom than perhaps they could have hoped for.
By March of this year, stories about Camilla were beginning to filter through. It was leaked that she was hostess at a cultural weekend at Sandringham, where Government Minister Peter Mandelson was among the guests. However, we've been told that even during this weekend, at times, Camilla adopted a low profile. When Charles and other guests went out for a tour of local churches, Camilla stayed behind, in case the two of them were photographed together.
It is amazing when you think about it, how rapid the relative rehabilitation of Camilla has been. A year and a bit back, this was the most reviled woman in the country. If you remember, she had bread rolls thrown at her in a supermarket near where she lives by her fellow housewives. She's never given any interviews. She gets some points for that. But within months of Diana's death, there is Camilla openly hosting a weekend house party at Sandringham. There's not a huge public outcry about it. If anything, the polls swing gently in her direction.
And there was very little public reaction when it was revealed that Camilla had met Prince William and Prince Harry. In fact, the reaction of some of the press was decidedly positive.
There is a feeling that, well, if this is the woman that makes Charles truly happy, and clearly it is, and it's his soulmate, then perhaps they should be allowed to be together.
Since then, Camilla has appeared at several London parties, here accompanied by Mark Boland, the Prince's Deputy Private Secretary, the man behind the campaign to rebrand the Prince and Camilla. But the picture that everybody is waiting for is the romantic two-shot.
The picture of Prince Charles just holding Camilla's hand, exclusive, would be worth £2 million for that photographer. I think that's a conservative estimate. I think he would be able to, cleverly marketed, would be able to make that sort of money.
The last year has been a good one for Charles. He's regaining his popularity, and senior aides tell us he's become more confident. He is determined to rebuild the House of Windsor's reputation. We have learned how Charles and his team would like to revolutionize the monarchy, but their plans can only be realized when he becomes king.
When we design our high-performance aircraft, the starting point is the pilot. First, we give him a seat that allows him to feel every movement of the aircraft. We design a cockpit that puts everything instinctively at his fingertips. Then we place him as close to the center of gravity as possible. Finally, we surround him with his strong aerodynamic body. Exactly the same way as we build our cars.
This Christmas at Index, you can pick up a lot more than just the latest catalogue. We guarantee top brands at the lowest possible prices. Index is packed with an amazing range of Christmas gift ideas for all the family, and up to 3 months interest-free credit. So why shop anywhere else? Index, with the lowest prices in catalogue shopping, we've got Christmas all wrapped up.
The cat, perfectly adapted to hunt for fresher food. The owner, perfectly adapted to open it. New Whiskers singles, foil pack, for freshness.
Summerfield's Price Check has great offers every week, like buy one, get one free on Class A fresh chicken fillets.
Right, Dad, that's decided. All here for Christmas.
In July 1997, the Prince of Wales joined Chris Patten in Hong Kong at the official ceremonies to hand back to the Chinese the last significant outpost of British Empire.
I'm sure that he felt as intensely, even more intensely than me, the sort of historical poignancy of the moment. It was, for most of the world, the theatrical, the dramatic end of not just Britain's empire, but the whole European imperial story. He has, as a human being, known as Prince of Wales, he has a very strong sense of history.
Charles realizes that his kingdom will be much smaller and very different from the one the Queen inherited when she was crowned in 1953.
Will you solemnly promise and swear to govern the people of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Union of South Africa, Pakistan, and Ceylon?
When Elizabeth became queen, 1 in 3 of her subjects thought she was directly descended from God. The monarchy marketed itself as the perfect family.
It had to sell itself as a universal emblem, and it chose to be the emblem of the one universal institution, the family. And this has been the problem, that the monarchy has tried to stick with an image that was invented in the 1920s, right through the sexual revolution of the 1960s, and of course the whole extraordinary series of problems of the Queen's children. And it is impossible.
The embarrassments and scandals of the past few years now mean that to survive, the monarchy has to reinvent itself. Charles believes the monarchy can enhance its relevance by performing a welfare role and using its privilege and influence for social good. 22 years ago, he set up his own charity, the Prince's Trust, which helps disadvantaged young people into the job market through training and funding. To date, it has created 60,000 jobs.
He'd like to see a country in which everybody's talents have the chance to thrive, can see that there are many people, too many people, who don't have the chance to use all their talents, and what in a practical way the Prince's Trust is there to do is to give as many people as we can, it can't be everybody, but as many people as we can, an opportunity to let their talents thrive in a very practical way.
The essence of the Prince's Trust is that every individual has worth. Every individual has some talent if you can discover it. But a huge part of the problem is that they lack the confidence to discover their own abilities. And he would go on to say, I was nearly there myself. That's what I was like when I was very young. I didn't know where I was going. I felt slightly lost inside.
Although Charles is now the centre of press attention, for years his achievements with the Prince's Trust were ignored, and his views on many other topics were the subject of derision. He was portrayed as an eccentric who talked to plants. His was a voice crying in the wilderness on many issues.
There are a number of key issues which he raised very early on. He was regarded for doing that as irresponsible or foolish or a bit soft in the head. Those issues are now at the centre of debate. The environment, complementary medicine, agriculture, architecture, his views on education.
May 1997, and New Labour win the general election. Many of their social welfare programmes mirror those which the Prince's Trust has been pioneering for years. At last, the Prince seems to be a man of his times, whose concerns seem to be shared by a popular and populist government.
Charles has privately described himself as New Labour before New Labour was invented, with some justice, because he was talking about community and shareholding and stakeholding before Tony Blair came on the scene, and some of their speeches are almost interchangeable.
People have wondered whether he should be worried that New Labour and others somehow pinching our clothes. It's the last thing we're worried about. We want people to copy what we're doing. We think we've done some pretty interesting things, and if other people will enable more of it to happen, that's great.
Since the death of Diana, the royal family has tried to present a more modern face to the nation. Yet the pace of change can make the Queen look uncomfortable, as here when listening to a new version of the national anthem. It is the Prince of Wales who seems to be increasingly in tune with so-called cool Britannia.
A Prince of Wales has got two roles. One of them is very undignified. It is to wait until his father or mother dies. Literally, waiting for dead men's or dead women's shoes. The second thing is to represent the future. The monarch's role, if you like, is to keep things the same. The Prince of Wales' role is to think about how they might be different, and that obviously produces tensions.
It is those very tensions which have produced the uproar and controversy of the last 2 days. Charles's campaign headquarters, St. James's Palace. A strategy for the monarchy's future is being planned. we have obtained details of his team's vision for the future. With Charles as king, Buckingham Palace would open its doors for the public to view its royal art collection. It would be used for state functions only. Windsor would become the official royal residence, and the new Prince of Wales, Prince William, would move to Highgrove. Charles understands the public reluctance to continue funding the expensive trappings of royalty. His beloved Britannia has been decommissioned. The Queen is rebuilding Windsor Castle by charging admittance to Buckingham Palace. Charles would consider paying tax on the private fortune he will inherit when his mother dies. Another radical idea is to take the family off the public payroll altogether. Revenue would come from the Crown estate, which would be transferred back from the state to the royal family. Annual income, £113 million. Such a move would have to be approved by Parliament. Charles also thinks there are too many royals.
You can't have all the cousins and the nephews and the aunts and the uncles all there. And I think that the Prince of Wales is susceptible to the thought that there should be a smaller group of people, basically I suspect the direct line in the next generation, who are identified as the key members of the royal family.
Proposals for scaling down the monarchy have always been talked about in terms of future generations. But we can reveal there are plans to make his two brothers, Prince Edward and Prince Andrew, in royal terms, redundant. They would become so-called non-working royals and would not receive any public money. But all of this must remain on hold until Charles is king, and there is no question of the Queen abdicating. She considers hers to be a job for life. In a series of briefings which it has accepted are often used to influence and test public opinion, we have been told by a senior aide that Charles believes the monarchy needs radical modernization. He is impatient to get on with the job, and that's why the aide said the prince would be privately delighted if the Queen were to abdicate. The prince dismissed this as not reflecting his views. His response to the claim came in a joint statement with the Queen. He said, "There is no one with a greater sense of duty and loyalty than the Queen. She's an example to us all, and I find comments such as these abhorrent." He continued, "The Queen will always have my abiding admiration and affection, and any suggestion that I wish Her Majesty to abdicate is utterly ludicrous."
Probably, Charles has sometimes said, maybe aloud, wouldn't it be nice? But to express a formal wish for abdication, to transfer that perhaps irritation, impatience, into a formal wish for abdication on his mother's part is preposterous. I find it very difficult to believe that anybody who either has been, is, or will be associated with the Prince of Wales would say that he wants his mother to abdicate.
Prince Charles's aides are briefing senior journalists, responsible journalists, with Prince Charles's thoughts, so that when they walk away from St James's Palace, they are walking away with their notebooks and tape recorders filled with the thoughts and fears and ambitions of Prince Charles. So let's not run away with the idea this is all some maverick aide wildly briefing the press. This is part of a policy. This is part of a pattern, and you can see it consistently over the last year, and you can see it consistently over the last 7 years.
But even when Charles does accede to the throne, there will still be many obstacles to overcome. Charles would become Supreme Governor of the Church of England. The Church is split on whether to condone his relationship with Camilla. In the last week, several bishops have supported him, but sections of the Church remain strongly opposed to him marrying a divorced woman.
All that Prince Charles has to be is the next heir to the throne. So the very fact he's divorced is not an issue at all. Now, it is true that remarriage would create a crisis for the Church.
all down the centuries, the monarchy in Britain has had a religious character. If you tried to shear off from the monarchy its religious reference, you soon will be left with no monarchy.
The Church of England has got more to lose on the Camilla issue than Prince Charles has, because they now represent a very minority grouping within the nation. And I think that the Church of England, in a sense, has got to dance to his tune and not the other way around.
An aide has revealed to us that whatever the difficulties, Charles is staying with Camilla. We've been told that even if they marry, Camilla will never be queen, leaving Charles without a royal consort. Charles's team have come up with an amazing solution. Princess Anne would become his royal partner at official engagements, and like him, would represent the crown on trips abroad. She would be the only one of his siblings to remain a working royal. Charles has come a long way in the past year to establish himself as a credible future king. But the Queen remains a popular monarch and shows no signs of wanting to stand aside for her son. Charles may have to remain an heir-in-waiting for many years to come. The issue of Camilla is still to be resolved. He wants the throne, and he wants Camilla. Will he ever be able to have both?
She's the author of the controversial biography of Prince Charles. She claimed that Diana threatened Camilla Parker Bowles. She claimed that Diana was the first to be unfaithful. But above all, she published her claims. In her first and only TV interview, Penny Junor talks live on GMTV, Monday.
Next tonight, Liz McDonald still agonising over whether to start a new life in Milton Keynes or to stay put in Coronation Street.
Everything about the new Volvo S80 is designed to turn heads. Apart from the seats, which, in the event of a rear impact, are designed to help save necks. The Whip's whiplash protection system inbuilt into every Volvo S80. The world's most exhilarated, safe choice.
I love crawling in this tube. Hasta la vista, baby.
Bye-bye. Hello, what's this? VTech products match children's age and ability levels, enabling children to progress at their own pace. So make sure the first toy you give your child for Christmas is from VTech. See and try them in your local store. VTech, the #1 in electronic learning.
Vaseline deodorant keeps you dry and looks after your skin. So, for adorable armpits, take Vaseline Intensive Care of yourself.
Button up your overcoat when the wind is free. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. Oh, eat an apple every day, get to bed by 3. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me.
Tonight on Cow File, butter deception.
The smooth butter-like taste of I can't believe it's not butter is misleading families into believing it really is butter. Forensics say it has less than half the saturated fat of butter, and it's their best ever taste. Yes.
This family bought it quite innocently.
We just didn't realise. We were completely fooled. It's the best we've ever tasted.
I can't believe it's not butter. Can you?
Inspector, the chief called. They found some in your fridge.
It's DIY Dad Time!
You destroy it yourself.
Careful.
Leave it to the expert.
New creamy tasting chicken pasta snack stop from Cross and Blackwell is one of a range of delicious mini meals in a pot. Just add boiling water.
Right, I'm back off to work. Could you... Oh.
Well, obviously they'll look a lot better with ornaments and stuff on.
Hmm.
New snack stop from...
A very large carving knife.